and I'm going to jump back in time a little bit. This on its own is worthy of a podcast. You brought Peter Pitt to New Zealand.
Man, you've jumped the pronunciations about 5 times so far.
Yeah, he said he didn't mind. He said he can go either way.
You've gone Peter Pitt, Pitter Pitt, Pitterpee Pitt.
But it's 75 branches nationwide.
Yep.
And it all started when you were a PE teacher. So you're a PE teacher, if I've got the story right, travelling over to Canada or US, or a friend of yours.
Yeah, so
tell the story.
Yeah, so cool story. Was working at Christian school, and the guy I was working with there was a ski instructor, and so he was up in Mammoth, and had sort of text back and go, I've got a great business opportunity, I think we should have a look at it. I'm like, right, what is it? Peter Pitt, we got to go for it. It's just the best food, it's healthy, it's good for sports people, it's like Subway but better. And so I'm like, sweet, I'm in. So yeah, he went and pitched to the international guys. They gave us the rights, signed the rights. I'd still never even tried one. So massive faith in business partner.
Was it his pitch to you that's got you across the line as well?
Look, it was, we'd sort of been talking around in that area of sort of something to look at, and it sat very much in a similar space to food that I loved, or tea and I loved anyway, and that sort of on the go sort of takeaway, and we wanted a healthier option, especially with young kids growing up, so that they weren't sort of going down a different path.
Just a Shay interlude. Do you guys remember Zero Subs?
Yeah.
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 It didn't last very long.
No.
I think Craig Wiley was the face of Zero Subs for a little while, which is a very niche football reference. Sorry, carry on, Dwayne.
Yeah.
I'll just jump in. Was it expensive to buy that license? Is that like a big thing back then?
Yeah, it was. Absolutely, when you're a school teacher. And it was sort of, parents loaned me some money, and Chris's parents loaned him some. We had a third investor, Roscoe, silent. But then, T sort of said to me, okay, well, in the big scheme of things, what's the worst thing that could happen to us, just before I say yes? And I'm like, well, we could lose our house. And she's like, oh.
Okay, yeah, that's a bad one.
And then this is typical T. She goes, but we could move in down at the Takapuna motor camp. You think about raising kids right on the water, Takapuna beach there. We could go for swims in the morning. And that was just her natural way of turning something scary, big, threatening into, oh my God, how cool would it be if we lived at Takapuna Beach motor camp?
Yeah.
So,
by the way, are you the eternal optimist at this stage? Because to further paint a picture, this is GFC time?
we're just heading into, well, we...
with no business experience or business acumen.
Yep. Yep, eternal optimist. No, both my parents were self-employed, so there was sort of, I'd seen the work ethic of them in the late nights, and my mum sort of very much a perfectionist sort of by nature, and Dad's sort of very methodical and practical. So I wasn't delusional around what was required, but also too we didn't have the spare funds that we were hiring heaps of people. So Tanya sort of worked in there with Chris, my business partner, and then I would go in after work. At this stage I'd sort of moved into working at Harbour Rugby, and so I'd often finish work at Harbour Rugby and then go in there and do the night shifts, and there used to be a bar across the road called Rototo.
Oh, yes, they did. Yeah. Oh, yes, they did.
And so, that would close at 1 o'clock and we'd stay open until 2. And,
it's important to get a healthy meal after a skinful.
Oh, we would have lines out the door. It's just we have some funny photos and memories from those days around, what people would put on. They'd have triple meat and 2 bags of chips and what have you. And it sort of really gathered a bit of a sort of cult following, and, we grew from there. And then, slowly sort of moved in. We had a bit of a hiccup with our first franchisee, end up in the High Court. And again, there was just a sort of variation of expectations, probably from both sides. So some steep learning curves early on. But again, like with anything, you sort of push through that. And Chris and my business relationship still going strong, 17 years on. And, we're looking at other opportunities now as well, which is cool.
When you buy a license like that to bring Peter Pitt to New Zealand, is there... Do they have guidance of how the shop should look, or what should be in it, or what can be on the menu, or do you have freedom to do what you want with it?
We had freedom in our agreement to what was termed New Zealandise the concept, because there were a few things in there that they had a lot of these quirky characters all over the wall, and they very much based the brand out of college towns. So they were picking up a lot of university students. We were trying to mainstream it. We hit it off with the founder, and we actually became like best friends with him and the sort of CEO. In fact, we were up at the founder's 50th up in the Bahamas, and
Wow.
it's more a friendship than a business relationship. And yeah, we sort of had it for 99 years, and in that time we had to try and get to 50 stores if we possibly could. I think we sort of smashed that out of the water in 10. And yeah, we've got more Pita Pits per head of population anywhere in the world. So you're pretty proud of that.
And you're responsible for growth, aren't you?
So yeah, in the early days we sort of delineated our roles a little bit, but again, as we're sort of getting older and needing new challenges, we sort of mobilise strengths into different parts of the business. We've got a great team in there. We've got a GM who started as our signage guy, and then we brought him on as our ops manager. Again, knew him through playing rugby and through circles of friends and what have you. And yeah, it's been awesome just to see him blossom and grow as a leader as well. So it's sort of become this sort of great little vehicle where people have sort of come through the doors and moved on to bigger and better things. And
How many countries in the world is Pita Pit in?
so yeah, I probably should have done my homework
Should
on that,
have.
to be honest. But yeah, maybe 12, I
Right.
think. So it's just changed ownership now. So yeah, through to a big sort of multi-brand
Yeah.
company out of Canada. And I went and met them up in Chicago a few weeks ago, and great guys, and they've got big aspirations for the brand.
Your mate, the founder, the original, the
Yep.
OG. But
Pit-
would he
Pita.
would he be a billionaire?
I don't know, about quite a billionaire, but
be up
yeah,
there,
no,
like-
we went and visited his lake house.
He's doing all right for himself.
The guy that runs and owns the Bellagio has got the lake house next to him, so he didn't look unhappy.
He's in the neighbourhood. Yeah. He's doing all right.
I remember when it came out, I feel like you had some really smart partnerships to begin with. There was a Netball New Zealand partnership, I think, early doors, but also World Masters Games. I think you fed all the volunteers.
Yeah, so Jenna Woodham was running all that up, obviously a very smart lady, sort of well known in the event circles, and so she hit us up about whether or not we had the capacity or the ability to sort of do it, because it was obviously a truckload of volunteers across numerous sports in various locations. So yeah, that was a great partnership to get involved with. One, just because it was a cool event to have in New Zealand and to showcase the country, but to support her. So getting involved there was amazing. We've had Lisa Carrington as a key sponsor, and having known her through Surf Lifesaving Days, and know her husband Bucky really well through surf. It was good to be able to find ways to sort of help and support her as she comes through her support. So yeah, no, we've had some phenomenal partnerships. Again, you can see sort of the consistency with trying to align things back to sport and keeping people active. We're also by the very nature of our food, we've been involved with the government free school lunch program, and so we're sort of doing around 75,000 meals a week. And the cool thing about that is, again, it's not just kids not having the ability to focus in the afternoons, or having a nourishing meal. It's all the things that they can then put something in their belly. They can have some focus in the afternoon. They're not detracted, or they're not going out scrapping at lunchtime. Hopefully it helps improve attendance in schools. By the time this podcast sort of comes out, a lot of the schools we've just organised, so we've got a few more thousand balls that we're going to be giving to those schools, just as a thank you for the partnership. And again, it's just to get kids active and trying to move around and fall in love with sport. So there's a very constant theme in a lot of the stuff we do.
Well, yeah, I just want to look back to the foundation very quickly, because you've got two other strings to the bow. It's not only the scholarships for the young female athletes, but you've got to Pass It Forward, which you do in conjunction with Rebel Sport, but also the Resilience Project, which is a pet favourite of mine. But are you able to just very quickly speak about those two in-school initiatives?
Yeah, so the Pass It Forward one is that whole, these girls are getting some massive opportunities for us, and, they've got to give something back, right? And they've got to, so a lot of them, and the girls love it. And, when they do their graduation ceremony, it's their favourite sort of part is going back to their old schools. And a lot of them have come from sort of low decile schools and been able to give back all these sports balls, some of the cricket sets, basketballs, touch balls, to the schools they just absolutely love and thrive on. So I think we're north of sort of $600,000 worth of balls that we're giving out to schools, which has a connection point of around 800,000, kids touching a ball in some way, shape or form. So that's hugely powerful. And then, like I said, we're giving more out through Pita Pit in the next couple of weeks. Then the Resilience Project, look, that's been a real passion. That wellness piece is something that's just so vital in New Zealand at the moment. And we looked early on to that. Guy Brett Hollister sort of put me onto it and sort of spoke around, what a great opportunity it was. He was going to have a look himself, but he was going down a slightly different path. And we just saw the real need for it, and when you see some of the stats that are coming out, and I'm talking sort of predominantly intermediate type school kids here, but 1 in 4 kids are turning up to school not ready to learn. By that I mean they haven't had breakfast or they haven't had a proper night's sleep. They're getting served up all this stuff on social media that they're getting lost for what reality is like, because a lot of that stuff's based off algorithms. And so the constant feed of stuff reinforces behaviour that doesn't necessarily reflect reality or society. So it runs off a GEM principle, which is gratitude, empathy and mindfulness. And again, we're even trying to bring some of those tactics into store and into franchisees and looking at wellness programs for our franchisees. And then we're about to do something coming up around mental health awareness, and just again having sort of gratitude walls within our stores, so that people can just take a time while they're waiting for their pita or bowl or egg to be made, and they can sort of just reflect on something that they're grateful for. That
How's your
that
gym?
particular-
How's your gym practices going?
Really well. I think I'm a better person now at telling people I love them. Of letting them know what they mean to me, and how they've helped me. Perhaps wasn't a strength previously, and even my kids would say that a lot more cuddles and a lot more little subtle gestures to them more often than now. So I think I'm becoming a lot stronger at it. I'm a lot better talker around a lot of things, but then I have a phenomenal network that allows me to sort of let my guard down and be a lot more trusting.
It's an intimidating space to lean into, right? When you're of a certain kind of philosophy about particularly how a man should be.
Yep.
To lean into kind of those things is a great place to be at.
Yeah. We do in our foundation sort of whips, and Georgie normally leads this. So Georgie, who's run this space and now moving, and she's taking over Karen's role as sort of the scholarship mentor. She's captained England women's rugby team. She's played netball for Wales. She's come from a very disadvantaged background. So for her moving into this space is just phenomenal. But she'll hold us to account that we have to go through some of these tasks every whip, and some of them are really uncomfortable to have to come out and talk to. But you always leave feeling so much better than when you arrived. And she's an absolute master in sort of getting us to all do it. She's a rock star.